Bien, vamos a proceder a la clausura de la jornada. Hemos tenido algún cambio de programa con los sucesos en Valencia y Paula Conte no ha podido venir, pero tenemos un vídeo del Ministro de Economía, Comercio y Empresa que nos va a dirigir unas palabras, así que le damos paso al vídeo y luego procederemos a la clausura con Verena.
Lamento profundamente no poder acompañaros hoy en este importante evento. Como sabéis, me encuentro en Valencia compartiendo con nuestro tejido empresarial las medidas que hemos puesto a su disposición para ayudarles a ponerse en pie tras esta tragedia que han sufrido. No quería dejar pasar esta oportunidad, sin embargo, para felicitar al presidente Rodrigo y a la vicepresidenta Montserrat y a todo el equipo por alcanzar este hito tan significativo. No solo porque la CNMV lleva años siendo una pieza clave de nuestros mercados de capitales, también porque a lo largo de estos 35 años ha demostrado una solidez y una capacidad de adaptación encomiables. Incluso en momentos adversos y de enorme incertidumbre, la fortaleza de nuestros mercados de capitales y de nuestra arquitectura institucional han desempeñado un papel decisivo. Y lo deberán hacer también a futuro, porque contribuir a la modernización de nuestro sistema financiero y con ello a la mejor capacidad de nuestras empresas de financiarse y de crecer tiene que seguir siendo una de las claves del éxito de nuestra economía. Precisamente esta es también una de las tareas en las que estamos inmersos a nivel de la Unión Europea, con un impulso decidido hacia una verdadera unión de mercado de capitales. Una mayor profundidad y una mayor integración financiera van a ser clave para facilitar las inversiones que tienen que contribuir a nuestra competitividad y a la sostenibilidad de nuestro modelo de crecimiento económico. Y este es uno de los mensajes clave que se desprenden tanto del informe Letta como del informe Draghi. Y es un ámbito donde además desde España estamos liderando con iniciativas innovadoras. En particular con nuestro laboratorio de competitividad para agilizar mejoras en nuestra arquitectura financiera común. Hace pocas semanas conocíamos que el Premio Nobel de Economía de este año ha sido otorgado a Acemoglu, Johnson y Robinson por sus investigaciones innovadoras sobre la influencia de las instituciones en la prosperidad económica. Según su análisis, las instituciones sólidas son fundamentales para fomentar un entorno donde la innovación y el crecimiento puedan florecer. También sugieren que la mejora de las instituciones es clave para abordar las desigualdades globales. Y nos recuerdan que para lograr un crecimiento sostenible y equitativo es esencial fortalecerlas, fortalecer nuestras instituciones que al fin y al cabo tienen que servir a todos los ciudadanos. Gracias, por tanto, a la CNMV, a un equipo profesional y dedicado por su labor y por su contribución a nuestro éxito colectivo. Y por supuesto, gracias a ti, querido Rodrigo, por tus años de trabajo al timón de la institución. Mi más sincera enhorabuena también por tu reciente designación como secretario general de la IOSCO, de la Organización Internacional de Comisiones de Valores. Un reconocimiento muy merecido y que pone en valor también el papel de España en el ámbito financiero internacional. Un abrazo para todos.
Bien, pues llegamos al momento final de la clausura de la jornada, que va a ser a cargo de Verena. Como no va a haber más intervinientes y ella va a hacer la clausura, sí quería agradecerles a todos su presencia aquí y la atención que han tenido de acompañarnos este día, y espero que luego podamos quedarnos, aunque no haya un aperitivo, pero sí a charlar un rato que falta hace. I'm not going to introduce Verena. She doesn't need any introduction. We worked together for 6 wonderful years at the very, very start of ESMA in very challenging and exciting times. But I do want to thank her for, of course, being here today, but also for your contribution to the European regulation and supervision architecture, for your impulse and for your enthusiasm on everything that you are pushing forward these days. It's a real pleasure to have you here, Verena, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. Good afternoon, I suppose, ladies and gentlemen, by now. I'm very happy to be here amongst you to celebrate this CNMV anniversary. And thank you for asking me, as ESMA Chair, to round up this morning's discussions with a few thoughts from the European perspective. And I'm really honored to follow not only the Minister, but also this distinguished panel of international regulators and many friends and colleagues from the IOSCO family. Let me start by a big congratulation to the CNMV for these 35 years of regulation and supervision. It's great to commemorate and celebrate with this conference. Besides its domestic achievements, the CNMV has been a long and distinguished European participant and contributor. Since its establishment in 1988, the CNMV has been an integral part of the European financial ecosystem. From the early days of participating, as it was then called, FESCO, the Forum of European Securities Commissions, and then CESA, the Committee of European Securities Regulators, the CNMV has been continuously upholding the spirit of European cooperation, working with us and all its national counterparts to promote harmonization, transparency, and investor protection. The CNMV has been consistent in promoting greater harmonization of the regulatory framework and the regulatory practices. And numerous chairs and vice chairs, and many of them I actually am very pleased to see here in the audience, have chaired working streams in ESMA over the years, whether that was on getting supervisors together to find common solutions, whether that was working on sustainability issues, whether that was working on proportionality and how we embed that in our supervision, but also, and most recently, the Market Standing Committee, which Rodrigo has chaired. So there's a real history of leadership at the European level. I can directly testify to that collaborative spirit, as I've worked many years, as Rodrigo just said, with him directly, not only as part of the ESMA context, but also in the international fora of IOSCO. And indeed, many of you know, and Rodrigo just mentioned it, Rodrigo was also part of actually creating ESMA from the beginning and building the organization, leading a team that undertook a lot of the initial work after the global financial crisis in drafting, consulting, and putting in place technical standards under many of the European regulations which we are still living with, and that has enabled us to create a more stable financial market. Today, as a key member of ESMA, the CNMV remains a strong advocate for the European market, ensuring that Spain's financial regulations are aligned with the broader European framework, while also protecting the interests of the local investors and the local markets. And the two really go together. And I want to personally thank Rodrigo and the whole of the Spanish CNMV team for this commitment. The tireless efforts, the professionalism, and the vision of the CNMV staff have made the progress we have made possible. You have not only upheld the standards of financial supervision in Spain, but you have also done a lot to contribute to shaping the regulatory and supervisory landscape across Europe. And then obviously now, yesterday, the announcement, Rodrigo will now take that forward into the global dimension by moving on in his career as an internationally minded financial markets regulator and taking over the Secretary General of IOSCO. I think it's IOSCO's gain, is ESMA's loss, unfortunately, but I certainly look forward to continue to working with him and in his new capacity. And I hope, and I actually know, that whoever succeeds him at the CNMV, we at ESMA can continue to count on the CNMV's relentless support for finding common EU solutions and pushing ahead in our journey to driving forward a common regulatory and supervisory approach to ensure ultimately resilient, orderly financial markets and strong investor protection in Spain, in the EU, and globally. As has been discussed this morning, having safe and efficient capital markets is under renewed focus and seems more relevant than ever. We live in increasingly turbulent times, and with all that geopolitical instability and intense international competition, it is important that we look at how we build our capital markets. We face the existential threats of the climate crisis and the double-edged challenges and opportunities that also the digitalization of our economies are going through. We must take steps now to ensure that our capital markets are as strong as they can be. Talking about climate crisis, please allow me to just express my and ESMA's sympathy to the people who have suffered so terribly recently in Spain. The consequences of the recent floods have been horrendous, and the pictures are certainly terrible, and our thoughts go out to everyone who has been affected by that. Coming back to capital markets, they are the lifeblood of our economies. They provide a platform for our businesses to raise financing, allowing companies to expand and develop. They provide our citizens with opportunities to build their savings and to plan for their retirement. Yet Europe is hindered in many ways by the fragmented nature of its capital markets. We must spur the development of the capital markets to make them a more attractive prospect for investors and to better serve the real economy. Diverse and sustainable financing options are critical for fueling growth and innovation in the EU, especially also for SMEs. We should seek to develop a favorable ecosystem for public companies, to foster pan-European markets, while addressing, obviously, the barriers to integration and making sure that our market infrastructures really work for the European market. We must build a culture of private savings and investments in the capital markets. This starts with financial education across all ages. It requires EU and national policymakers to foster simple and cost-efficient investment options backed by appropriate protection and incentives, incentivizing and exciting citizens to participate in the EU capital markets. A lot of this was said just in the panel before. I think this is a common challenge for many of us, but certainly it is something that we need to really grip in Europe now. The EU capital markets must be agile to respond to evolving needs, modernizing the regulatory process and improving supervision, both in terms of consistency amongst national supervisors and evaluating, where necessary, the need for further EU-level supervision, as also complete gap. You just said on the panel, apologies. We can cultivate more trust and break down barriers. In turn, this can help attract more European and global investors and make our capital markets more competitive globally. I think we can look back at the example of the last 35 years of collaboration, and we will be inspired to continue our work on this path together between ESMA and the CNMV. I know we can count on all the CNMV colleagues to play their part in this. And with this, I just want to repeat my earlier congratulations to the CNMV on its anniversary. We wish you all the best for the next 35 years and look forward to continuing working closely with you in the ESMA family. Thank you very much, Rodrigo, for everything. Thank you to all of you and for your attention, for being part of this conference, and I wish you a very pleasant afternoon in this beautiful city. Thank you.